John Aravosis here. How you all doing? I am, again, playing with the microphone tonight. I got a new box. I had to buy some new equipment to try to make the mic better, so we will see how it is tonight. Let me know. Hope it's working. I don't know. I'm going to go live on TikTok in a second. The second thing is trying to make I may have finally made the connection where I can have this mic run on TikTok too, so I can have the good mic over there. It's probably about as loud as I can get it, so let me know about that too. All right, guys, in the comments at least starting off. Otherwise, once the show's going, what do you do? But let me know, like I said, how it's sounding with the new box. I want to make sure before I start TikTok in a second. But give me a quick feedback, and then we'll get rolling on TikTok. And as always, hoping I'm here with you all. How we doing? How's it sounding? Yep. All right. Sending a message. Make sure you guys can see me. Oh, sounds good. Okay, good. I get worried when I don't hear from you guys. So, all right. Let me get rolling on TikTok here. All right. Well, let's see. Now, the big question will be whether this works on TikTok, because if it does, then I'm able to stream my good mic on TikTok as well, which would be kind of exciting. So let us see here. 1 minute here, live. There we go. Ukraine update live. Okay, let's see what happens on TikTok. Well, good that you can see me too. That's always good too. Like I said, the quality should be better. All right, TikTok. Let's see. Let us see. Otherwise, TikTok, I'll unplug the mic if I have to. But let's see what happens. Thanks, Amanda. All right, we'll see what the TikTokers. Hey, Ryan on TikTok. Hey guys, Big Hawk. Hey Ryan. So I'm testing the new setup has my good microphone beaming to TikTok as well. So how is it sounding on TikTok is the big question. Because if I have to, I'll go back to the other microphone for TikTok, but it would be nice if I could use the good mic because it's a really good mic. So let me know, TikTokers, how it's sounding. If it's working. It's sounding good? All right, that's good. Paul says it's sounding good at least. All right, good. Yeah, because this is my very nice like $400 to $500 microphone that I've had for years, and I had to buy a whole new setup to get it work. Like a kind of annoying, but what do you do? Another $150 box. Which what do you do? Hey, cool. I do see you. But the $150 box is worth it because it means I now can stream this mic to TikTok, which is kind of cool. Thank you, John S. I mean, the other mic was good. This mic's a better mic, so I'm hoping it sounds better, but we'll see. And this also means when I do TikTok videos now, I can use my good mic. You'll see the last video I did on TikTok, I used the good mic, and you'll hear the sound difference. Anyway, let's see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's not on too strong or whatever you call it. You know what I mean? The over whatever I don't know what you call these things in mic land, but I had to put it on pretty strong so people on YouTube could hear it. I'm just hoping it doesn't blow out. Anyway, good morning, welcome everybody. My voice is deeper. That's funny. Slightly muffled. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Well, that's what I'm afraid, the mic redlining. That's my fear. I can turn it down. Let me turn it down a little bit. I just don't want it to affect the YouTubers. All right. Hopefully, YouTubers, yours will stay good. There we go. I turned it down a touch because I could see that it was hitting the yellow zone. Well, let's see what people say. Not as good as normal? Uh-oh. All right. Well, we're going to get started in a minute anyway, guys. 1 more minute, and we'll wait for us to start. But I want the general opinion as we go on. Does the TikTok sound better with this mic or my normal mic that I use? And we can decide that way. So decide which sounds better. I mean, this is a much better mic, but making it work on TikTok is its own issue, you know? Actually, now that we will do a quick poll on TikTok. Hang on, YouTubers. That I can do. Quick poll. Actually, mods, you're able to do a poll. Could you put it up for me? It's easier for you to type. Put a poll up that just asks which microphone is better, the new one I'm using today or the old one that I normally use. I think that would be interesting, and give it 10 minutes or 15 minutes for people to vote, maybe, So let's do that. Anyway, so at a little after 7, or we're going to end around 7 o'clock tonight because I've got a dinner party I'm going to. Finally, haven't been to one of those in a while. So just be aware we're going to try to do this about an hour tonight. We won't do our usual hour and a half, whatever, but that is okay. Anyway, guys, welcome all. This is the Aravosis Report, my nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. The way we do the show is I go through the news and then we do Q&A afterwards. But the news, pretty much we're going to do Ukraine tonight. I do other news. I do presidential news. I'll do Gaza and Israel when there's news, but there really isn't any particular news going on tonight. So, we'll see. Thank you, Eva. But in any case, all right, guys. So I'm just looking here at my YouTubers as well. Okay, yeah. And YouTube, the issue is for some reason it broadcasts a little bit low on YouTube, and I don't know why. Okay, that was a little too fast, Callum. Do it. That's 16 votes is okay, but do it for like 15 minutes or something. All right, because that way we get people who are coming in later too. Yeah, give it like 15 minutes if you would. All right, mods can't vote. That's okay. You guys can let me know privately. All right, it won't let you vote, or it'll let you set it up though, won't it? All right, I'm going to get started here. Pakistan did fire back at Iran today. It was a small firing right across the border, I believe. 5 is the longest? All right, let me look. All right, I'm going to set up a quick poll on TikTok for my microphone, and then we'll get moving here. All right, quick poll. Clearly state your question. Where? Start? Clearly start a poll when the existing one ends. Okay, you've got a poll running, crazy people. It's not going to let me start this. You must have a poll running still. All right. Not going to worry about it. It's all right. All right, guys. Anyway, John Aravosis here. Let me get rolling. 13 votes. Yeah. All right. Don't do another poll, mods. Let me set one up myself here. All right. And what's it doing? Okay. I don't know what the heck that just did. All right. TikTok. I'm giving up on TikTok now. Giving up on TikTok. All right, one last thing. Latest poll. Why does TikTok have to make everything so hard? Text poll. There we go. All right, this is better. Edit. I can make this one longer myself. Custom. Here we go. I can take your poll. No, I can't. You bastards. You TikTok bastards. All right, delete this poll. I'm going to try this on my own. New poll. Custom. 5 minutes. You're right. They're only letting me do 5 minutes. What is wrong with TikTok? All right, I give up. TikTok just has to be a PITA. They change things all the time, and it drives me crazy. I don't know what it. TikTok's a hater, exactly. They always have to change. This is what I'm telling you, and I am never gonna stop raving about young engineers. It's you young people screwing up the world. No, but I mean, they do stuff like who thought, hey, let's change the polls on TikTok so they no longer can go longer than 5 minutes. Let's have them go only 5 minutes just for fun. It's like, okay, thank you, life. Oh my God. Anyway, all right, guys, let me get rolling. So we're going to talk about Ukraine. As always, please keep the gifts coming. I do this for a living. I do it full time, and the way I'm able to afford to do this is with your guys' gifts. Your gifts help me pay the bills. So please do keep them coming. That's how I'm able to do this show. So thank you, Tabby. Speaking of gifts, and somebody in Israel gave me a gift with a name that I can't pronounce, but you sent a rose. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you just sent another one, Israeli named person. So thank you. All right, today is day 693 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Thank you, Fred, for the hat. The Ukrainians did a kind of interesting attack today on Russia. Thank you, F and Hell. They used a drone that they made themselves and attacked apparently an oil depot near St. Petersburg. Thank you, F and Hell, for the hat. The drone went around 800 miles. Or 1,250 kilometers. Thank you, Tom, for the gift as well. And it only cost the Ukrainians $350 to make the drone. So they made it themselves, $350, which is around the same in euros, more or less. And they were able to fly at 1,200 kilometers or 800 miles, which is pretty cool. They were able to hit an oil refinery near St. Petersburg. Not clear what damage they did or didn't do, but that's still pretty impressive. I'm trying to think. Do I have? I've got my map. Hold on. I've got my map from Ava. So if I am not actually help me out, guys. If I'm not incorrect, okay. Here's Ukraine down here. Okay, this is all Russia. All of this is Russia up here. Ukraine's down here. Okay, Moscow's the green dot here. If I'm not incorrect, St. Petersburg. Help me out. Is St. Petersburg all the way up here, or is it further down? No, St. Petersburg is is over here, I'm guessing, because it's on the water. Is St. Petersburg over here? Help me out, guys. Am I right? Is it over here? Give me a yes or a no. Thank you, Darren. I have to look at my, that's what I'm assuming, because it's on the water. It's near the water there. So from Ukraine, instead of just going to Moscow, you're going all the way up here. That's pretty freaking good. Okay, that's pretty damn good. So very impressive that the Ukrainians pulled that off. Now, again, let's see how much damage they did. You know, who knows? Let's see what the payload, you know, how much of a bomb, explosives can these drones carry? But that's pretty darn impressive being able to go that far. The immigration deal. So in terms of what's going on with Ukraine aid funding in the U.S. Senate, the Biden finally had his meeting with congressional leaders. He said that the meeting went well. You know, who knows, right? I mean, he's gonna say that, which is good. Reportedly, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Biden indicated he's willing to basically come around to some of the Republican views on immigration on the border. Basically, the U.S. has a very porous border with Mexico. 3 million people attempt to cross every year. A lot of them are stopped. I was reading this the other day, I think in the New York Times. It was kind of scary, actually. 600,000 people a year make it across the U.S. border with Mexico illegally. They make it across and they're gone, and nobody can find them, which I thought was absolutely wild. I mean, I didn't know it was 600,000. That's a lot of people. In any case, 600,000 make it across, and the Republicans want to make it harder for people to get asylum, especially if they don't ask for asylum before they come to the border. You're supposed to ask for asylum in advance and not just show up at the door. And they want to make it harder. Anyway, Wall Street Journal's reporting. Let me read you this from the Wall Street Journal. And the reason I'm talking about the immigration deal is the Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives are saying that they're not going to pass Ukraine funding unless Biden agrees to an immigration deal first. So, and of course, Israel funding is involved in that too. Thank you, Hebrew named person and Critter and Jonathan. Oh, and Chazak. Sorry, I missed a bunch of you guys throwing things in here. So this is from Wall Street Journal. An immigration deal being crafted in the Senate would limit migrants' ability to claim asylum at the southern border, a White House concession some progressives say shows that President Biden's leftward shift on immigration as a 2020 candidate was a blip in his long political career. I mean, a little bit of a biased article, but whatever. As part of the border deal negotiations with Republicans, the White House has also recently signaled it would accept some changes to humanitarian parole, an authority that allows the government to let in people who don't qualify for a visa. Thank you, Patty. The Biden administration has been using it expansively to let in migrants who register with the government in advance so that they don't enter the U.S. legally. You know, we've talked about this before. I got to tell you, I am not a fan of Republican racism about immigration, okay? Trump talking about immigration was always just racist. Remember, he talked about the S-hole countries, the S-H-T-hole countries that he referred to as the countries that were sending people here, Latin America, probably Africa too. It was always a racist tinge to what Trump was saying. That bothers me a lot, and we don't want that. Having said that, what I don't get, thank you, Tom, I don't quite get the, thank you, M. Fuller, I don't quite get the, extreme anger on Democrats about immigration. I don't quite get it. I mean, what's the constituency? I mean, like, if I'm gay rights stuff matters to me, right? If you're a woman, or actually a man, it should matter too. Abortion policy should matter to you. I don't quite get the overriding anger about immigration. I don't actually care if there's tweaks one way or the other. I mean, I really don't. I don't want people coming across illegally. If we tighten up asylum a little bit, what's the problem? I mean, really, I sort of feel, there's thank you, adventures. I don't really get it. I mean, I really don't. I think intellectually, I can understand the discussion, and I can understand intellectually and saying, okay, is this the best approach, right? Is it the best way is it fair? What do we want to be as a country? I totally get that. But the whole notion of going crazy about the issue and saying, this was just a blip in Biden's record, he's anti-immigration. Why do they, unless they're trying to get their friends in, I'm not quite sure why they care. I mean, I really don't. I think they're not Americans. That doesn't mean we shouldn't care about them, but I care about my own countrymen first, and every country does. I really, and like I said, unless you're promoting racist policies, I'm not a fan of that. And I don't agree with that. And I just don't get it, James. I mean, my nephew feels the same way. James says they're coming from countries the CIA messed up. My nephew feels that way too. I don't. Because to me, thank you, Napoleon. To me, that's part of the whole everything, like slavery and everything else. You know, we want to go back to like every wrong we ever did and use that as an excuse to affect everything. And I don't know. I mean, again, I don't hate people for being upset about immigration, but like, I get it if you're a woman and you're upset about choice. That I get, right? If you're an American and you're really upset about tweaking American asylum policy and that really gets you going, I don't know. I don't quite get it. I really, like I said, intellectually, that's fine. But I just don't quite get why it would be your number one anger issue. You know, I really don't get it. So weird. In any case, but let's see. They're going to have to reach an immigration deal, they say, for Ukraine to get helped. And, you know, it's, you know, yeah, we are all immigrants. But, you know, like I said, you know what it is too, I guess? I've been working in politics so long, there are priorities. You can't fix everything. You can't help everybody. And you can't always get, it's funny, they said at one of my law jobs once, the attorney told me that I was working for said, something I was working on. Thank you, SV. I was working on something, and with the hands, and it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. And he said, you can't always get an A. And an A in American schools is the top grade. And I just feel like, you know, I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe, again, I've worked on too many issues. I care about Ukraine more. If we're going to hold up Ukraine funding and we're going to risk Russia running over an entire country and committing genocide and wiping it out and possibly starting a war in Europe, I care more about that than I do tweaking the asylum law. You know, it's just, I don't get it. In any case, again, I'm not going to criticize people who do take this issue so personally, but unless you're an immigrant who's got family stuck coming in, I don't quite get why take this so personally. But in any case, grain exports. So good news from Ukraine. Their grain exports have actually been doing really well. Remember I can still use the Ava map. Remember how Russia, at the beginning of the war, shut down Ukraine's grain exports. And the idea was that Ukraine exports a lot of grain. They're one of the biggest exporters in the world. And the Russians didn't want them getting money. Not only did the Russians not want them Ukrainians getting money, but the Russians also were hoping to create a crisis in North Africa, in the Middle East. We're basically making it where people don't have enough food. And if they don't have food, getting back to immigration, what happens? They leave North Africa and the Middle East and they come to Europe. And if it comes to Europe, it causes a demographic crisis, political crisis, etc. So the Russians were playing lots of game. 3 months into the war, maybe in July or so, not 3 months, 6 months, or, well, would it be 4 months, whatever. July, they reach a deal with the Russians, July of 2022, and the Russians agree to let the Ukrainians ship some grain without blowing up the ships. Well, this goes for about a year until July of 2023, and the Russians just decided, no more, we're not going to allow it anymore, we're not going to allow the grain shipments, so they shut it down again. Well, the Ukrainians got smart, talked to the NATO allies in the region, and came up with a plan to basically, and I'll show you on the map, but to basically export the grain through the Black Sea, which Ukraine was doing, okay, but hugging the coast so that they stay in NATO waters. Like in Ukrainian waters, they were able to protect themselves, but once they got further down, I'll show you here on the map. Yeah, a little hard to tell because the Black Sea is black. This is water here. It goes through the Bosporus of Turkey here and then goes to the Mediterranean. So all of this is water. Leaves Ukraine, hugs the coast of Romania, hugs the coast of Bulgaria, and then goes through the Black Sea, not the Black Sea, but goes through Turkey and south. It's always in NATO waters. It's in Turkish waters. The boats are in Bulgarian waters, Romanian waters. The Russians can't attack. Thank you, Bryce, for the hat. If the Russians, and Nikki as well, if the Russians were to attack, right, they'd be attacking NATO. They can't do it. Well, it worked wonderfully. The Ukrainians are now exporting more grain than they were exporting under the deal they had with the Russians, which is a huge deal. The one downside, which is really interesting, thank you, Don, is the Ukrainians are announcing that they expect their grain exports to drop 20% because, and get this, because of the Houthis firing at commercial ships in the Middle East, right? We've been talking about Yemen and how the sort of the rebels that are occupying part of Yemen have been fighting at commercial ships, and then the U.S. and Britain and our allies got together and bombed the missiles that were being fired at the ships. Well, this is causing problems for Ukrainian shipping, which a third of Ukraine's exports of grain are going to China. Now, I've still got my little map here. Where is this? I think I've got my little map handy. Yes. This is perfect because I was showing you guys this the other day, and now it's like perfect for the map. Hang on. I'm going to get my mom's pointer again. Here we go. So check it out on the map, all right? You can see this pretty well. Hard to tell Africa. This is Africa, right? China, perfect. China's over here. Ukraine is going to be, Ukraine's more or less right here. Ukraine is under the R in Netherlands. Go a little bit under, and there's the Ukrainian port, okay, under the R. So Ukraine normally would come down here, come through the Suez Canal, and go to China. Now that things are getting blown up here, Ukraine is having to come down and basically go all the way around here, all the way around. That adds another 8 to 10 days to the trip. And I don't know whether Ukrainian ships are, some of them just not going to China, or whether the extra 8 to 10 days are eating into their schedule, right? Because that's 8 to 10 days that the boats would normally be done, right? I mean, if you're adding 8 to 10 days to, if you're a trucker and you've got a delivery and somebody does something that slows you down, and instead of arriving in a week, you're arriving 8 to 10 days later. So you're arriving in 2 weeks. Well, that extra week is costing you. It's called opportunity cost in economics. That extra week is time that your truck is not transporting the next load, right? So you're literally, if you're a business, you're losing that week, right? I gave the example yesterday. It's like somebody staying at your table in a restaurant all night. If you're not turning over the table, you're not making money. If you're not turning over the shipment in a week, which you normally would be, or however long it normally takes, and it takes an extra week, that's an extra week that now the shipments are, you're not being able to get a new customer. Well, anyway, it's cutting into the Ukrainian business by 20%, which is really interesting. And the reason I brought it up was not just Ukraine, but it's interesting because it gets, actually, Spandan Pete made a good point too, or Pat or Pate, fuel and insurance as well, right? You're having to pay for insurance the entire time. You're having to pay for fuel for another 8 to 10 days. Right? You're having to pay the crew for another 8 to 10 days, right? These guys are having to work an extra week now. It's a mess. It's a mess. And as Arden said too, it's an extra week coming back as well, right? Thank you, Dan, for the heart there. You understand now why we're talking about this being such a big deal for international commerce, that the Houthis are doing this. Because some of the sort of Houthi defenders, and I hate to sort of even get into it with them, because who's going to defend terrorists, right? Or pirates. Nonetheless, people have been defending the Houthis and saying, "Yay, Houthis, go attack ships," and saying, why are we defending commercial shipping? Because literally the lifeblood of our economy, much of it goes through ships. And as you're seeing with Ukraine, if grain is Ukraine's big export, and Ukraine is going to lose 20% of that export, that's a huge amount of money that they're losing. It has a real impact. All right, a little bit more here. Oil sanctions. So the U.S. Treasury Department announced today, new sanctions against a shipping company for Hennessy Holdings, wherever they are, for violating the $60 a barrel price cap on Russian oil. Now, basically, we had put a price cap on Russian oil and required companies to pay Russia no more than $60 or something for oil. And if they did, we claimed we were going to sanction them or do something. Well, there was an article at the end of the year, might have been Wall Street Journal, I don't recall, but basically saying that our oil sanctions weren't accomplishing much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Or that this oil deal, that this oil limit of the price, the Russian price, wasn't accomplishing much. This is the first I've heard of actually applying a sanction to a company that didn't abide by the deal. So it'll be interesting to see if the sanction actually does anything. In other words, if it has teeth, and therefore will other companies listen in the future? We'll see. European Parliament. So little news, but not too much, but a little bit of news on the issue of Hungary and the European Parliament. As you know, Hungary has been blocking $50 billion in aid for Ukraine from the European Union. And a number of European countries have had it with Hungary. They're trying to make it so that Hungary no longer is able to vote in the European Union, or suspend their rights at least. They took the first step, which was the European Parliament supporting a resolution calling on the European Council to strip Hungary. Well, it's a complicated process, but calling on the European Council to vote to make it so Hungary loses the right to vote. Well, the problem is the European Council has to be unanimous. And even though Hungary doesn't get to vote, because you don't get to vote when you're the topic, the Slovak government gets to vote, and they're being really bad. The Slovak government is the one that, hit my hand. The Slovak government's the one that was recently elected. The prime minister is a big fan of Putin. He's very anti-Ukraine. And he's said that he will defend the Hungarians and not let anybody basically kick out their voting rights. So I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere. It'd be nice, but I'm not convinced much is going to happen. Estonia today told the head of its branch of the Russian Orthodox Church to leave the country, calling him a threat to national security. The Estonian government repeatedly asked the man to stop vindicating the Kremlin regime and Russia's military actions in his statements, but he failed to do so. Thank you, adventurers. The British Ministry of Defense had a series of tweets today. They do sort of updates on Twitter on various topics, the British Ministry of Defense. And they did something today on the Russian economy that I thought was interesting. Thank you, Sean. Basically saying that they think the Russian economy is in danger of overheating. The interest rates, which I did not know Russian interest rates were this high. Like, we complained that our interest rates were up to 6 or 8% or what. I don't even know what they are right now. Alexa, sorry guys, I'm going to set off all of your Alexas. Alexa, what are U.S. interest rates currently? Depends. Oh, 5.5% is the federal. That's what I was going to. The Federal Reserve rate was the one I was wondering about, not our mortgage rates. So the Federal Reserve rate in the U.S. is 5.5%. Okay, in Russia it's 16%. I had no idea the base government interest rate was that high, 16%. They just increased it again by 1%. This is the fifth increase since they've been having to raise it. The base rate is usually around 6.5%, so this is pretty bad, which is good. Russian inflation is accelerating towards 7.5%. They're estimating 7.4% as being the inflation for 2023. Double the amount that Russia's central bank wanted. What the British Ministry of Defense says, let me read you this. Russia's continued invasion of Ukraine is highly likely to negatively impact the outlook for the Russian economy. Imports have risen faster than exports, likely contributing to the ruble depreciating since the start of the war, highly likely a driver of inflation. I don't want to go through the economic analysis. It's kind of confusing, but basically, if your currency depreciates, if the value of your currency goes down and you're buying imports, what happens to those imports? If your currency goes down in value, you've got to pay more of it for those imports, right? Because you're trying to buy something from another country and your currency is now worth half the amount, right? That's it. So it adds to inflation. So it makes the prices that much more when they come into the country, okay? U.S. inflation is incredibly low right now. Actually, what about the U.S.? Alexa, what's the current U.S. inflation rate? I'm going to go with 4%.
The United States inflation rate for the most recent month is 4.9%.
Oh, 4.9 for the most recent month.
The most recent month is
4.9. What's the... Alexa, what's the... Oh, wait. Alexa, raise your volume. Alexa, what's the current annual U.S. inflation rate?
The current annual U.S. rate varies depending on the location. For example, Washington, D.C. has an average annual precipitation of 44...
Oh, God. Alexa, what is the annual U.S. inflation rate?
The United States inflation rate is 3.4%. The
So,
inflation rate
Alexa,
is
stop. So our average inflation rate for the year is 3.4%. It went up the last month, which was not good. But the average is 3.4%, which is great. The Russians are going to be in much worse shape. I mean, they're at 7.4%, but it's getting worse. And the other problem is the military spending. The military is spending so much, and there's such a large segment of the economy, like a third of the economy or something crazy, that also risks overheating the economy as well. Finally, this story was kind of funny. The final story is about Igor Girkin. Now, Igor Girkin is or was a Russian military blogger. One of these guys who was on social media in Russia commenting on the war. And initially, Putin liked these guys because Putin thought these guys were going to be his big, they were in his pocket. They were the pro-war posse, right? And he thought this was going to be great. These guys were going to support him in the war. They were going to be, talking to the Russian public, almost like an Obama thing. He was going to use the internet, and reach out to people and stuff, right? Well, the problem is the war hasn't been going so well, right? Remember, this war was supposed to be over in like a week or something. The Russians brought their dress uniforms with because they thought they were going to be taking over Ukraine and literally marching in downtown Kyiv in their uniforms. And that did not happen. So the military bloggers, not surprisingly, got very upset and started talking about how badly the Russians were doing. And Putin did not like this, right? Well, Igor Girkin was one of the loudest ones. I mean, he's still alive, barely. Was one of the loudest military bloggers. He is infamous because he's also a convicted war criminal. Girkin is one of the people convicted of mass murder for his role in bringing down the Malaysian airliner Flight 17. That was the Malaysian passenger jet with several hundred people on board that was flying over Ukraine. And then remember, the Russian partisans shot an anti-aircraft missile and blew it out of the sky, killed everybody. Well, Girkin was part of the team that killed everybody. He was convicted of mass murder for this. He's not a nice man. Well, Putin had had enough of his criticism of the war and had him arrested. So he's been arrested for, quote, inciting extremism, which basically means criticizing the government in Russia, and has been awaiting trial ever since. The prosecutors just announced they're seeking a 5-year jail sentence for him because, again, he was critical of how the war was going. He was so in favor of the war that he wanted to, right? He was so in favor of the war. Lizzie, why did you just get an advert? Because life is not free. Because YouTube has ads on it. And I've got the ads set very conservatively on YouTube so they don't come up very often and it brings in less money. But I got to have ads on something because I do this for free and I got to pay the bill. This is my job. So that's why you just saw an ad, because you're watching YouTube. So, but I do have it set conservative so it doesn't bring many up, even though that cuts the amount of money I make. So if you don't like ads at all, I can cut them, but then I'd appreciate you guys buying, doing the gifts and the super chats, and I can cut the ads entirely. Love to. So that's up with Girkin. Sellout. I know. Sellout. Trying to pay the mortgage, you sellout. Trying to pay your grocery bill. Thank you, Cerveza. And the electric bill, you sellout. Oh, Kherson. Oh, Udachny. Oh, no. Vinogradnik. I don't know which is your first name, though, from Kherson. I don't know either. Vinogradnik? Is that Udachny? Is Udachny first name? I don't know. I can read Ukrainian, though, but I don't know what the name is. Sorry about that, but that's why, Lizzie. That's why. But welcome from Kherson. We have somebody here visiting us from Kherson. I will show you on the map where that is. Oh, boy. Here it is. Kherson in Ukraine is right here. It is liberated, which is great. It was the Russians were occupying it for a while. The Ukrainians got it back. They're still occupying the bottom half of the province, but the town of Kherson, the city, is here north of the river, and it is free. TikTok does not have ads. Yeah, so there are no ads on TikTok because TikTok doesn't have ads. Yep. Anyways, welcome. Good to see you. Anyway, folks, so there you go. That is it for the news today. Let's do our Q&A and everything else. Feel free to chime in your opinions, your feelings, whatever. I do not speak Ukrainian. No, Udachny. I speak I studied Russian for a year. Thank you, Martin. I studied Russian for a year, so я говорю немного по-русски. But what is it? По-украински? Нет. And even my Russian is, не очень хорошо. Thank you, Lori. But yeah, I don't really, not really. Anyway, news about Wagner? Not really. Nope. I got to check with Vlad. We've not been pushing the fundraiser. We're going to try to do it this weekend. Thank you, Elizabeth. Well, I think we're going to hold another sort of fundraiser we're going to hold on Sunday to try to push it again. Because we didn't do very well with the fundraiser the other day. We're trying to raise money for a camera system. Thank you, Martin, for the gift on TikTok. For a camera system to help the Ukrainian troops. Basically, it's an early warning tripwire. Thank you, Crazy American, for the TikTok gift, to know when the Russian troops are like coming across the front. One way of knowing is putting drones in the air. And you could have the drones constantly circling. Oh, thank you. Who is it? Ada? Adat? You could have drones constantly circling. The problem is the Russians are very good at either shooting down the drones or commandeering them, like hacking into them and taking them down. So the Ukrainians need to find a better way. They studied, Vlad and his friends are all very geeky tech guys and gals. Thank you, Buford. And they came up with a way of using cameras that are wired. And they're cameras that are wired with wires, literally, so the Russians can't hack them because they're not broadcasting through the air. So they hook these cameras up on trees, and they're able to look at open fields and things to see when stuff is happening so they know when the Russians are coming. Anyway, we're raising money for that. It works quite well. We're raising some money for it. Our fundraiser did not do well the other day. We only got a couple $100. We need about 2,000. So we are going to see about, I'm going to do it on Sunday because usually we do better when we do sort of a Sunday fundraiser. So we're going to try. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Adam says CCTV. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Basically. But it's exactly, but CCTV in a specific area because they don't have enough to CCTV the entire forest, but you do it like at the front at a field that you're concerned about the Russians will come across at some point, and this way you've got them looking forever, right? I see your question over there. I'm going to see what Udachny's translating comment here. It's hot here in Kherson. My family came here because of everything. Thank you for your help. We are very happy to help you. I know. I assume you mean hot as in scary military bombs hot, no? The weather can't be hot. The weather has to... I could ask my Alexa, but everyone will get mad at me. Alexa, what's the temperature in Kherson, Ukraine?
Right now, in Kherson, Ukraine, it's 51 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, it is warm.
Today, expect a high of 51 degrees.
It is warm.
How much do you value having Alexa?
Alexa, stop.
Please rate from 1 to 10 where
Alexa,
1 is
stop. She's asking me to do a poll. If you like your Alexa, please rate me from 1 to 10. It's like, shut up already. I told you, this is like Star Trek where you're like, Data, stop. But yeah, it's 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. Which in Celsius, I'm going to guess is like 12 or 13 maybe. That is quite warm. Wow. I didn't realize that. Wow. Sixivo is asking, is Pakistan versus Iran worrying? Yes, it is. So Iran, I'm actually not understanding too much of what's going on here with Iran, whether they're just trying to stir the pot in ways that are unexpected. But Iran attacked Pakistan like yesterday, went after some rebels or whatever it was. And the Pakistanis responded today by attacking Iran, by sending some missiles across the border into Iran. Understandably, why wouldn't they, right? Very screwed up. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So not entirely clear why you would attack a nuclear country, right? A little bit weird. But what is worrisome about it is, this is something that I think a lot of us didn't necessarily anticipate, right? We didn't, in terms of the concerns of what could happen in the Middle East, there were concerns about Iran getting involved and attacking Israel, of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon getting involved and attacking Israel, right? Things like that. Even Syria getting involved. I don't think anybody was worried about Pakistan going to war with Iran. That wasn't quite on my scorecard of concerns. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. It's very weird. So I don't know. It's worrisome. Yeah, it is worrisome. It is worrisome. I was surprised by it. Yeah. By the Pakistani attack, no. I was not surprised that Pakistan responded. No. I feel like Pakistan had to respond. I mean, you can't just let somebody attack your country and get away with it, But I did not expect the Iranians to attack Pakistan and Pakistan-Iran to be an issue. So, one thing from Iran's perspective is, Well, first of all, I mean, Darren made a good point. Could Iran be trying to court favor with India? India is always at odds with Pakistan. Another thing is if you're Iran, you're just trying to stir the pot and cause trouble. Iran just wants to cause as much trouble as possible to make it difficult for the U.S. and the West. Starting a conflict with Pakistan maybe could do that. I'm not quite sure why Iran would want a war with Pakistan. It sounds kind of stupid, but nonetheless, it's very weird. It's very weird. I mean, Dawn says everyone just wanted to show off their missiles. I mean, maybe that's part. Maybe it's just Iran trying to be like, Tarzan, where they're just trying to be like, watch us fire a missile into another country. Haha. I don't know. It seems really stupid though. But yeah, it's worrisome. It's worrisome. Yeah. Having said that, I think neither country wants to go to war. It is chest beating, though. The problem with the Iranians is, they're a radical regime. So there is that concern about, them not always being smart and logical about what they do. But, thank you, Mike Mattson, for the seafloor. I didn't talk about W.C. Fields is mentioning a protest that happened in Russia. I didn't talk about it. It's the region. Oh my God, he wrote the region down. The region's name is Bashkortostan. What I had read was that what was it? It wasn't related to the war. They were, what was it, guys? Help me here. They arrested like a local personality. A local guy who was protesting something totally unrelated, and the people got upset and rioted, and it was like a real riot, and there were videos of it and everything. It was kind of wild. I don't know if everybody remembers the details. Happy to share it with folks. I don't have it in front of me. But in Russia, and it was just gold and culture. But it's I know that's a stand I've never even heard of. What's it? Bashkortostan. But it was shocking to see that kind of civil unrest in Russia, even though it wasn't related to the war or anything else. I guess in a dictatorship. Thank you, Vicky, for the gift. I guess in a dictatorship. You got me thinking, Vicky. In a dictatorship, you still have to worry about any civil unrest, right? Any civil unrest like this gives message to everybody else that, hey, it's possible, So, anyway. But yeah, so I did see the story. I just never mentioned it because, it's not really related to Ukraine. It certainly is relevant for Russia, arrested because they accused him of separatism. Accused of extremism? Well, they accused everybody of extremism, right? That's the same thing they hit Igor Girkin with for criticizing the war. In Russia, extremism, I mean, being pro-LGBT, anything is extremism for a dictatorship, right? What else, guys? We got another 15 minutes or so. I told you 7 o'clock I'm going to leave because I've got dinner. Aravosis stand. That one Aravosis stand I could live with. Aravosis stand. You have to say it in Greek. But 7 o'clock, I'm going to sign off because I've got a dinner party I'm invited to. So I don't know what time. I have to leave around 10 after, quarter after maybe. So I did not see Iran. When did Iran shoot down our drone? I did not see that. Favorite city in Greece? Probably in Santorini. It's an island, but not a city, but still. When it's not, thank you by the, now I've got, okay. Probably Santorini. Okay, I am trying to guess here. That alphabet that just gave me the hat and mustache looks like the third, there's like a second and third script of a language. Like, is that the Japanese, Korean? It's like a different version of it, though, I remember. That name, right? Isn't it like the spelling it by letter name? Is that right or not? Yeah, your dad invited me, yeah. But the one that sent me the hat and mustache up there. Just curious what that language is. Is that the Japanese single letters or not? Which one is that? Just curious. Yeah, you. Thank you again. But what is that? What's the language there? I was going to say, is that one of the Japanese, though, or not? Or not? Katakana, but again, it is Japanese. Okay. That's what I thought. It's one of the Japanese ones. Okay. Yep. See, I try to be well educated on these things. Japanese. I've never visited Mykonos. No, the problem is I don't like the over touristy part of Greece. Drives me a little nuts. Each letter's a syllable. Okay, I just remember it being like dot 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 dot. Yeah, dad jokes. It's sort of a gay dad, your mama joke. Rhodes is supposed to be wonderful. I've never been to Rhodes either. It's funny. I've been to Greece a lot, but there's so many islands that you really don't, as a Greek, you don't go to all the, you just haven't been to that many, Thank you again. Somebody's got to tell me what your name is so I actually can thank you. But yeah, Mykonos, I just don't like the touristy stuff. You've got a house in Rhodes. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You don't have to invite me twice. Are you kidding? What else, guys? What else? What was the question? Manda? Oh, yeah. 6 Evo. Yeah. I did answer. Yep. I answered 6 Evo's question. Yep. I said I am worried, actually, a little bit. What else, guys? Thank you, Timothy and Shane, for the gifts. What else? Hi, Shane. Do I want the return to the Elgin marbles? I am sympathetic to the argument. I get very divided on this topic of countries returning things from other countries. Part of it, I'm 50-50 actually, on the topic overall, because part of it, again, reminds me of the slavery stuff to some degree. I'm not a big fan of always going back 400 years and saying, well, you did this 500 years ago. I mean, give me a break, There's a lot of stuff from all over the world that has spread all over the world. I mean, as far as antiquity stuff. But the Parthenon? I mean, when you get to, you're talking about the freaking Parthenon. It's the number one thing in Greek historical identity, right? There's nothing more important than the Parthenon. That tips the scale for me from 50-50 to come on, right? I do think it's a complicated issue, because I don't think just because it was yours, 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago means I got to give it back to you, right? Especially if it's being respected, if it's being displayed correctly, it's not being treated as some piece of garbage. But when it's something so important to the culture, I feel like, it'd be like the British crown jewels having been stolen by someone else 1,000 years ago, or not even 1,000 years ago, right? Several hundred years ago. How would you feel about that? That'd be something where you'd be like, okay, that maybe those we would really want back. I mean, because they're important enough to the country and to your identity. So that's my issue. But I do think, I saw your comment, Sobo, about the finders keepers, but in Egypt too, it just depends. I mean, but it depends what. I don't think you get everything back. I just feel like that's a bit much. NATO troops in training? Not sure what they mean though, Sen. What do they mean by that? I'm not sure what the question means though. Like what NATO troops in training? I would agree until I saw the Syrian stuff in Iraq being destroyed by ISIS. Well, you saw, remember all the ISIS stuff they destroyed was horrific. And I mean, the Brits, from what I recall, the Brits also argue about the Elgin marbles, the part that they preserved it and it might not have been preserved in Greece's pollution and everything. But the thing is, the Greeks now have a modern museum. They've got a wonderful, I've been to the museum. The Parthenon Museum, or the Acropolis Museum, is lovely. And it's a beautiful building, beautiful modern museum. And it was built intentionally to house the part of the Parthenon that the Brits still have. So they lose that argument that, we're preserved. You did preserve it, but any case. So like I said, I'm 50-50 on it, because I understand the arguments of wanting it back, and I understand some of the arguments. As you know, I'm not a big fan of people saying, well, this happened 100 years ago or 300 years ago, and I'm kind of like, get over it. But if it's so core to your identity, like the Parthenon, I'm a little more sympathetic, Anyway, what else? Well, exactly, like the pyramids. Imagine had we taken the pyramids. Then I'd be like, maybe we need to return the pyramids. That's a bit, they're too big for us to take, but imagine had somebody, been able to take those, that would be a bit much. So a couple more minutes, guys. Oh, we got 10 more minutes. Yeah, we got 10 more minutes before I've got to start getting ready for my dinner party. What else? That was a hypothetical. The pyramids are actually there. Well, that's the problem. Andy Morgan says the Elgin marbles were actually paid for by Elgin, but he bought them from an occupying government. That's what I thought. He bought them from the Turks. And it's kind of like, the Turks were literally occupying Greece for 400 years, and they decided to sell our antiquities to the Brits. It's like Russia selling Ukraine's, most famous antiquities because they're occupying Ukraine. It's like, it's a little creepy, but in any case, anyway, what else? Do I think all of NATO actually would defend a NATO country, even Hungary and Turkey? Depends. Under President Biden, yes. I think we'd have to. Though I have a little bit of a worry about Biden. Thank you, Carla. Under Donald Trump, no. There'd be no defending NATO at all. And that's the problem. And that is one of my biggest problems with the Trump presidency is he destroyed America's power in the world. And Republicans, I think sane Republicans get it, but they aren't willing to stand up. Our word means nothing now. Trump made that clear. He's willing to go back on any deal, any promise. Our word means nothing. Doesn't care about history, doesn't care about the implication. He cares about whether he's getting a new hotel. That's it. Thank you, Boy Mom. So Trump would not come and defend NATO. No. And it would be a disaster. And that means that the NATO guarantee doesn't mean anything if America doesn't have a Democrat or a good Democrat. Biden would defend NATO. I think in the end, Biden would. The Brits would, and Biden would have to. Any NATO country, we wouldn't have a choice. Because the U.S. would... Now, Republicans in Congress would be a disaster, which is also why this Ukraine stuff... And again, I do think Biden screwed up on the Ukraine stuff. He let the MAGA wing be too empowered, and now you've got the MAGA wing is just waiting. What happens if Putin decides to invade Poland and just take a little bit of Poland? Even better, forget Poland. Because there's too many Poles in America. Take a little bit of Estonia. We don't have that many Estonians. What are you, 1.5 million people or something? I forget if Estonia is the one that's small, right? But you take a little bit of Estonia. Are we going to war with Russia over Estonia? A Democrat, I think, would say yes, because it's a NATO commitment, and I would agree. But Republicans in Congress are going to lose it if you do that. And the problem is, John Smith, it is MAGA. It's not a matter of Biden's mistake. We are talking about whether Donald Trump would defend NATO from a Russian invasion. And Donald Trump has already said no. This came out in the news last week. You can Google it. Trump made clear to multiple European leaders in 2020 that NATO is no more. He wants to pull out of NATO. He said, we will not come to your defense. And that's what I just said. That's not Biden's mistakes. That's literally Donald Trump saying he would not stop Russia if they invaded Europe. And the problem is you've got a number of Republicans who now would defend that. And that's the problem. So even if Biden tried to help Estonia if they were invaded by the Russians, what would Republicans in Congress do? Would they cut the money from U.S. support and say, we're not giving support unless you, invade Mexico too? I just don't know. It's bad. No, they have totally undercut the U.S. word, the U.S. sort of defensive umbrella, and they've undercut NATO. It's really bad. New support package France has announced. France announced that they're going to be signing a bilateral security agreement with Ukraine. It includes a number of, I want to say, gliding bombs or something. I'm not really up on those. But it also includes 40 Scalp cruise missiles, which are a big deal. Those are the missiles that the French and the English both have. That's a big deal. I don't know the size of the package. They're going to sign it next month or so. Macron of France is going to, I believe, come to Ukraine to sign it, I think. But that's all we know about it. Hopefully it's big. France has not done much until now. France's commitment has been very small. They've been criticized for it. The Germans have given 17 billion euros in aid, which is the same as dollars, basically. $17 billion in aid to Ukraine. The French have given $500 million. Versus the Germans giving 17 billion. It's pathetic what France has done. And Spain And I think it's Italy too is the other one that hasn't done much. But France is really bad. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. $500 million, literally. It's like 540 million or something. I had the figure yesterday. It's horrific. You Google it. The Kiel Institute did a study, Kiel, I believe it's called, and you'll see the numbers. Germans were over 17 billion. The Baltic states gave a lot. Nordic countries. Number 2 was Britain, I believe, the UK. And France was all the way down at 540 or so billion. Million, 0.54 billion. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Yeah. No, again, I like France. I studied in France, but, get with it, guys. It's not good. Yeah, it's really not. It's very bad, Liam. Yeah, it's very bad. Anyway. Canada, I don't know where Canada is on it. I don't know where Canada is on the list. I'd have to see. Now, the European one gets a little complicated when you compare it to Canada, because with the European donations to Ukraine, some of the lists include Europe, which isn't a bad point. Some of the European countries give directly to Ukraine. Some of the European countries have given indirectly via the European Union. So the European Union would give Ukraine aid, but that's money that has been contributed by each European country. So the European countries are saying, well, look, if we're giving the European Union, I don't know, $1 billion a year, 10 billion a year, whatever it is, and you give $1 billion of that to Ukraine, of my money, that's my contribution to Ukraine. So it's not a bad point. It's actually not a bad point. And Canada wouldn't have that. So, but I don't know where Canada is. I don't think Canada's great. Canada's a smaller country, though, so you'd have to look at it based on GDP. Based on the size of Canada's economy would be the only fair way to look at it. Hey, Tom, thank you. As I said, I'm going to go in probably about 2 minutes, guys. I've got a dinner party tonight I'm going to. So, so much for so little. The problem is I don't think so, user 590. No accountability. I just don't think that's the issue. I think first of all, you want accountability? Let me give it to you right now. Here's what our money did. The Russians invaded, and within about a week, there was a good chance within a week or so that they could have taken this country. They could have taken the capital. We helped stop that. The European countries helped stop that with our intelligence and everything else. Then our aid. What did our aid do? The Russians controlled like all of this. Really, the big swath over here. All of this was liberated. All of this, the Russians controlled, was liberated. This part has not been liberated. The Russians controlled. Half of Ukraine that was occupied is now free. So that's what our money did. Our money also stopped, thank you, your mommy. Our money also stopped the entire country from being taken over by Russia. What would that have meant? That would have meant Russia would have been at the border of Poland. Russia would have been at the border of, help me out, guys, Hungary. We don't like Hungary, but we still don't want Russia at their border. Who else we got? Romania. Romania comes up here. Moldova, but I'm less worried about Moldova because they're not NATO. But Romania is a NATO country. You've got a lot of problems that would happen if Russia were to take all of Ukraine, because then there would have been concern about an all-out war in Europe entirely. That's a big concern for America. We could sit back and watch, but as we learned in World War I and World War II, there's only so long that America can really sit back and watch a world war take place in Europe and not get involved. So, as far as accountability, sure, I am all for saying, let's try to, keep track of the numbers, right? How much is being spent, where it's going. I totally agree with you. But I would not use that as an argument to say the first part of what you said, which is our money didn't do anything. Our money did a lot. The problem is we held back key, and this I fault Biden for. He held back key systems and key support the Ukrainians needed because he was afraid of Putin. And he was afraid of angering Putin. Didn't give them the planes, didn't give them the tanks, didn't give them the HIMARS at the beginning, didn't give them the Patriot missiles, didn't give them we still aren't giving them the ATACMS missiles they want. We gave them the crappy ones. We didn't give them the good ones they need that can go farther. Thank you, Japanese person. So that's why Ukraine's having a problem, because we and NATO dragged their feet, didn't give Ukraine what it needed, so we spent a lot of money. Again, I'll sort of end with this. I gave the example before of like cancer surgery, right? You got cancer, and in America, that stuff's very expensive. And you could have $1 million in treatment and surgery and everything else. And it's like somebody saying, well, I'm going to help you. You need $1 million. I'm only going to give you 750,000. And you're like, well, okay, but I need $1 million to live, right? Well, we give 750,000, and guess what? The person's still sick. Of course they're still sick. We didn't give them enough money to cure them, but we spent a ton of money. So we're going, well, I spent $750,000. What do you mean you're telling me you're still sick? That was a lot of money, right? And Ukraine, the sick person's going, I told you we needed $1 million, and you didn't, and you wouldn't listen. Ukraine needed $1 million. They needed the planes. They needed the bombers. Not bombers, but they needed the planes, the fighter jets. They needed the tanks. They needed, again, like I said, the HIMARS, the Patriot missiles, everything. We refused because we were afraid of Putin. That's why Ukraine isn't winning right now. It isn't that we gave them a bunch of money that didn't matter. We gave them money, and we wasted the money. Ukraine didn't waste the money. That's what pisses me off. And I will fault Biden for this. Biden wasted the money he gave Ukraine. The Ukrainians didn't waste the money. They used it well. But Biden decided I wasn't going to give them enough. All right. And money to Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq, how much? Well, we give a lot to those. We give a lot to Egypt and Jordan. Egypt gets a lot. Jordan still gets a good amount. Iraq, I don't know. I don't know, Cliff. I don't know. Do you know the amount? I don't know offhand. Isn't Egypt still getting a couple billion a year or not under the agreement, the peace agreement? And Jordan and Iraq, I don't know. But I mean, we have military bases in Jordan, so we've got our troops at least. Well, maybe not bases, but we got troops. But so I don't know. But probably a decent amount, I would think. And Iraq, I have no idea how that works now, Japanese person has joined Israeli named person. Exactly. Exactly. All right, guys, I'm going to go. Like I said, I probably have till about 10 after, quarter after, but I just want to get my stuff together. I made gluten-free brownies for the dinner that I don't want to forget. One of the people attending was gluten-free, so I was like, I'll make brownies. So, and they're surprisingly good, which I guess isn't surprising when you think of it. Thank you, Jeremy. Because gluten-free simply means making almost volcano cake kind of stuff. All right. Thank you, Mark Starr and Jeremy. Thanks, guys. Hopefully, like I said, the sound worked today. Today's big test was I'm using my good microphone, not just on YouTube, but I'm using it on TikTok as well. I bought a sadly very expensive little piece of equipment that cost me $150, but it's making it so that I can use my good microphone hopefully is better with you guys, but that I also can use it for you guys. And I can now use it for my TikTok videos, which is, by the way, one of the reasons I asked for help with the gifts, because this is the stuff I have to pay for. So thank you. Oh my God, cookies. So hopefully the sound is good on TikTok. I'm very happy. And I will do, like I said, you can go check out my most recent TikTok video. Thank you, Boy Mom. The most recent TikTok video is, thank you, Bryce and Carla, is using the microphone. And you'll see the difference. It might have been a little too hot, like a little too strong. So I'm adjusting it, but I think it's pretty good. Pretty good. And if it makes me sound like I have a lower voice, that works for me. So, woo-woo. All right, guys. Have a good night, all of you. Old one's better. We'll try this again in a few days and see. If I have to, I'll use the old one. I'm not gonna, cry over it. All right. Thanks, guys. See you, audio producer. I figured you appreciate what this is. I had a Focusrite that I had to buy like a couple years ago, and now I needed the new, what did we call this one? The Vocaster, because the Focusrite wouldn't work with my iPad and my phone, driving me crazy. So now I've got to put that thing on eBay. So what do you do? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. All right.